One of the most important aspects of services marketing is the ability to make up for service failures. This is known as service recovery and is the subject of this chapter. Given the situation indicated in the slide, what things would you mention in your letter of complaint? What compensation would you seek? In writing a letter of complaint, one should keep the message factual and avoid invectives, threats, and insults. In other words, professional. Professional letters are more likely to be taken seriously, while threatening letters might end up with the legal department. Legal departments assess the seriousness of the threat in terms of the likelihood of violence and occurrence and might refer the matter to the police or wait until you follow through with your nonviolent threat or file a case against you. This generally makes us more upset because of the seemingly uncaring attitude of the service firm or because it will cost us money to pursue our complaint. In terms of compensation, many of us will think of asking for the moon, or nothing at all, or some compensation that might be seen as commensurate to the service failure. In complaining and seeking redress, it is important to be professional and fair. Remember that companies also want to retain customers and will be willing to make up for their mistakes in a fair manner. How does one handle customer complaints? This flow chart shows the process once a customer experiences service failure. It details the stages of the complaint behavior and the firm's possible actions for service recovery. The different elements will be discussed in succeeding slides. What leads to complaints? In truth, the potential for service failures that result in customer complaints might begin in the moment of truth. The probability of service failure increases if certain distinctive service characteristics are present, such as customer involvement, people as part of the product, or real time performance. Ultimately, it is how the service firm handles the complaints and resolves them that will determine customers' loyalty. How do customers usually respond to service failures? Slide 5 shows the sequence of likely events if the service encounter is unsatisfactory. Customers have three options when they feel the service is subpar. 1. They can take public action, which could be either complaining to the service firm or complaining to a third party like the Better Business Bureau, or take legal action. 2. They can also take private action, such as defect a competitor or badmouth the service firm. And 3. Take no action. Customers can do any or several of the options in 1 and 2. This slide reiterates the information found in slide 5. In addition, it cautions the manager to consider the impact of a defection that can go further than just the loss of future revenue. For example, negative word of mouth can stop other people, thanks to the internet, from patronizing the service firm. To effectively resolve complaints and prevent defections, we need to understand why people complain. Based on studies of complaint behavior, there are four main purposes for complaining. These are obtain restitution or compensation, vent their anger, help to improve the service, and for altruistic reasons. To effectively resolve complaints and prevent defections, we need to understand why people complain. Based on studies of complaint behavior, There are four main purposes for complaining. These are obtain restitution or compensation, vent their anger, help to improve the service, and for altruistic reasons. While it seems that many people complain, research shows that on the average, only 5 to 10% of customers who feel they have experienced a service failure actually complain. Why is it that the majority do not complain? One reason is that customers feel nothing will happen and there will be no redress by the service firm. Sometimes people do not complain because their perceptions of their roles as well as the social norms of their society inhibit them from complaining, such as the lower class in many Asian countries. However, upper classes are more likely to complain than those in the lower classes. An important aspect of the complaint handling and the service recovery process is how fair the firm is perceived to be by the aggrieved party. When customers feel they have been treated fairly, they tend to react in an immediate, emotional, and enduring manner and are very dissatisfied. On the other hand, if the outcome of the complaint was perceived to be fair, then customers feel satisfied. Not everyone sees fairness in the same way. This chart shows that there are three dimensions of justice in the service recovery process: procedural justice, interactional justice, and outcome justice. The next slide discusses this further. Procedural justice refers to the policies and rules that govern the complaint and service recovery process. If the process is seen as complicated and onerous, customers will feel it is unfair. Interactional justice refers to how the customers perceive the fairness and behavior of the persons handling the complaint. Perceptions of bias in favor of the company will be perceived as unfair and will result in dissatisfaction. Outcome justice pertains to the compensation or restitution a customer receives as a result of service failure. Such compensation should cover the service failure but also the time, effort, and energy spent in pursuing the claim. Inequitable restitution leads to customer dissatisfaction. Firms should have an equitable service recovery process, as even one incident can make customers lose their confidence in the firm's ability to be fair. If the failure is blatantly outrageous, such as dishonesty on the part of the firm's employees, if the firm is reputed to constantly do this, and if the firm is not really taking steps to remedy the situation, then the problem and the unhappiness will get compounded. You may know that the European Union now has rules on what airlines must do in terms of treatment and compensation if there are delays that were within their control. Lufthansa has been known to claim delays were not within its control in order to avoid paying compensation. Many of those who were denied compensation were non-residents of the EU who Lufthansa might think will not expend time, money, and effort to file claims. Consequently, many negative comments about Lufthansa's fairness can be found online. When a firm systematically does things to resolve a service problem fairly, then it is engaged in service recovery. This will preserve the customer's goodwill and favorable image of the firm. This will also increase customer loyalty. For this to happen, it is necessary to have a well-designed procedure to enable unhappy customers to seek resolution of the service failure. This makes it an effective service recovery. Effective service recovery has its benefits. For one, complainants who were happy with how their service failure was resolved are 15 times more likely to recommend the firm in comparison with the dissatisfied complainants. Customer retention rates also increase dramatically when complainants are satisfied with the resolution of their problems. But the retention rates were highest when issues were resolved quickly, often on the spot. Researchers found that the complainants who experienced excellent service recovery after a service failure were more likely to be more satisfied than persons who never had an issue with the firm. This is known as the service recovery paradox. This led to the hypothesis that it may be good for customers to experience service failure so that they can be delighted with excellent service recovery. However, such situations will depend on the severity and recoverability of the service failure. An episode of the sitcom The Big Bang Theory depicted an airline losing the luggage containing the ashes of the mother of Howard Wolowitz. Can you imagine how severe this failure is? Can you ever replace her ashes? Would you ever have a favorable image of the airline if it happened to you? If a service failure keeps on happening repeatedly, people will lose their favorable evaluation of the firm. The way to increase customer satisfaction and loyalty is by doing the job right the first time. However, sometimes service failures are unavoidable. Effective complaint handling will result in customer satisfaction and loyalty too. The service complaints should be examined and sorted to figure out what types of complaints are most frequent and most grievous. This will allow the firm to craft policies and procedures to address the service failures identified by the research. But the process should continue into discovery of the root cause of the service failure as a learning experience. Results from the learning experience can be factored in improving the job right the first time. In essence, we use the feedback to improve how we can provide a better service. What are the components of an effective service recovery system? The first component is to make it easy to provide feedback. Companies today use feedback mechanism in order to fine-tune their strategies and improve their service delivery. A firm must provide many avenues for customers to give feedback, including through social media. However, other firms are restricting access to other ways, such as telephone numbers, in order to try to reduce personal interaction and reduce costs. Without Googling the number, try finding PayPal's phone number on its website. Another component of an effective service recovery system is to design structurally a way to enable effective service recovery. Such structure should be proactive, planned, trained, and empowered. Proactive means that the firm initiates the mechanism for addressing complaints by looking at the probable instances of service failure. The implication of this is that we have to plan ahead in order to be prepared for any service contingency. The firm must also train the people handling the complaints to be empathetic, responsive, and competent. Uh, no matter how nice and helpful the customer service person is, the customer's frustrations will not be fully lessened unless frontline employees are given the authority to resolve the problem and provide appropriate restitution. The third component of an effective service recovery system is to establish adequate compensation levels. These levels would depend on the positioning of the firm, how severe was the service failure, and who is the affected customer. People who pay for premium services unrealistically expect no service failures to happen. So if a failure occurs, compensation must be commensurate to what they paid. High prices means higher levels of compensation. On the other hand, if the firm is positioned as a mass market firm, an apology and a redo of the service might be enough. The severity of the service failure provides guidance on compensating service failures. Very serious failures require higher levels of compensation. Usually, most people expect little for minor inconveniences, but a lot more for serious failures. Very loyal customers, particularly those who spend a lot on the service provider, expect a higher level of compensation. Firms would want to hold on to this kind of customers and satisfy their demand for compensation. Infrequent customers are not as economically important and may be given less but fair compensation unless the failure is severe. Slide 19 presents the strategies to reduce the customer complaint barriers. The left side of the table identifies three complaint barriers, while the right side shows the strategies a firm can employ to reduce these barriers. Slide 20 provides an easily understandable guide for frontline personnel on how to handle complaining customers and recover from a service failure. If you need more detail, refer to Service Insights 13.3 in the text. What do service guarantees do? The next two slides enumerate the things that service guarantees do. They include forcing the firm to focus on what customers want and expect in each element of the service. They provide clear standards to both customers and employees, which define at what level of service failure a guarantee gets triggered. Firms have to design a structural mechanism that allows them to collect customer feedback and act on it. This slide continues the enumeration of what service guarantees can do. To continue, service guarantees can force service firms to understand why they fail and identify and address potential service failures. They provide customers with an assurance of the lower amount of risk in using the service and becomes a tool to create customer loyalty. What are the characteristics of an effective service guarantee? This slide lists those characteristics and a short and easily understandable explanation for each. The table on this slide indicates the different types of service guarantees. Single attribute specific guarantee, multi-attribute specific multi-attribute specific guarantee, full satisfaction guarantee, and combined guarantee. This the table also presents the scope of each guarantee and examples of each type of guarantee. Should all firms have a service guarantee? It depends on whether a firm is already seen as a service paragon or not. The service paragon can get away with no service guarantees because of the fact it's known for high quality service, including making up for service failures. The firms with a poor reputation for quality service require a service guarantee compared to the service paragon. Firms whose ability to provide service quality is compromised by external factors should not offer a service guarantee as control of the situation is not theirs. Firms should not offer a guarantee if buyers see little risk in their product. How do you deal with unscrupulous people, known as J customers, who try to take advantage of the customer service recovery program or guarantee? Remember, not all complainants are right or reasonable. To make matters worse, firms that do not proactively counter any misbehavior by J customers could risk losing their valued customers because these J customers could be the cause of complaints by these valued customers. For example, uh, an aware-bearing customer who got upgraded to first class may demand, in the event of a canceled flight, rebooking on another flight in first class too, even though his ticket is really for economy. The gate agent revokes him in first class just to get rid of him, leaving one less seat for people who paid first class fares. The first class passenger who does not get a seat will be mad at both the airline and the J customer. This slide provides the first three types out of seven types of J customers. These are the cheat, the thief, and the rule breaker. The others are provided in the next slide. Wardrobing, by the way, is buying expensive clothes and wearing them for special occasions and returning them for a refund before the guarantee or the um, time period for returning them without penalty is over. This slide provides the first three types out of seven types of J customers. These are the cheat, the thief, and the rule breaker. The others are provided in the next slide. Wardrobing, by the way, is buying expensive clothes and wearing them for a special occasion and then returning them for a refund. This slide continues the list of types of J customers. They include the belligerent, the family feuders, the vandal, and the deadbeats. Did you hear about the man and woman who just met on a Delta flight and had sex in their seats? What kind of J customers are they? Generally, bad behavior of J customers affect frontline employees, other customers, and the service firm itself. If these misbehaving customers are not firmly dealt with, the morale of the staff gets affected, and this has negative implications for both productivity and service quality. Bad behavior can lead to more bad behavior as other customers join in spoiling the service experience for other customers. Sometimes these kinds of situations escalate into violence. If employees perceive that the firm is not going to protect them, they get demotivated and are less likely to work efficiently and effectively, affecting the firm financially. When service recovery programs are generous, they may attract dishonest customers. It is imperative that the service firm keep track of who has taken advantage of the service recovery programs in order to identify who's abusing the system. A central database that contains all compensation payments, service recoveries, return goods, and any and all benefits received by each customer should be instituted to enable the firm to identify the fraudsters. Interestingly, customers are less likely to cheat if the service quality is quite high, whether it's peer or other customers' disapproval or that they are inhibited by the situation or location, or that their long-term track record may be blemished, cheaters are less likely to target high service firms. These findings have managerial implications. These are: firms should ensure that their service recovery procedures are fair. Large firms should recognize consumers are more likely to cheat and thus must have robust fraud detection systems. Firms can implement and reap bigger marketing benefits of 100% money back guarantees without worrying. Guarantees can be offered to regular customers or as part of a membership program. Repeat customers are less likely to cheat. True excellent services firms have less to worry about cheating.